Welcome to the EOB Podcast, where we talk about the weekend box office and the new openings this week. I'm Benno, and joining me is Sen Duong. So Sen, since my break, my trip out of the country, I'm back. I recorded a solo one podcast last week.
And were you accurate?
I was pretty on, actually. I was pretty on. It surprised me. I was sort of incoherent because, I was doing it when I was still jet lagged, but I was kind of on with my projections for the new releases for that weekend. So, I was there.
Yeah. So I guess whenever I'm not here, your projections are better.
Right.
Without my influence.
I guess I actually have to do my homework when you're not here, so I couldn't lean on you, to to provide all the details, the analysis. So I had to actually do homework. So maybe that's why.
I think it's the other way around.
Okay, so since we're back, let's talk the box office. We have two new releases last weekend. We have the Hitman's Bodyguard, which stars Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson, and it's about what you expect it to be about based on the title. And then there is Steven Soderbergh's return movie, Lucky Logan, which stars, Channing Tatum, Daniel Craig, Adam Driver, on and on. He called in some favors for this one. And, I said I did pretty well on my projections last weekend, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So let's jump right in. Okay, coming in number one is The Hitman's Bodyguard. It pulled in $21 million over the weekend. It is kind of about where I projected the movie to open to. I say it could open to about 20 million, or it could open higher if it kind of hits with the audience. If the African American audience, turn out for this crowd, it could probably hit up in the 30s, maybe. I said, but it kind of opened to where I project the movie to open, which is 20 million.
Yeah, that's kind of especially if you look at the budget, it's only 30 million, so 21 million is not bad, especially for Lionsgate, who, makes a bunch of these genre movies. That's a pretty good figure. It's better than their Jason Statham vehicles. So.
Well, this is kind of like a Samuel L. Jackson vehicle, right? Just him spewing out all these lines, cursing. That could have an attraction to some audience. But then again, I also said that, hey, Ryan Reynolds is in this movie, and his track record when he doesn't have a mask on.
Yeah, the irony, right?
Right.
Was he ever the sexiest man alive?
I'm not sure, but he's probably in the running at some point.
Yeah, he was probably in the running for the last decade, and the movie that he did the best for him, that kind of put him on the A-list, is a movie where he has to cover himself, or if he's not covering himself, he has to look like Freddy Krueger.
Right. That's what I said.
The irony.
Yeah, I know. In my preview, I said, hey, Samuel L. Jackson, him in an action movie with his, cursing and just playing Samuel L. Jackson, right? It could have a wide appeal. But I say, then again, there's Ryan Reynolds in this one, and he's not wearing a mask, which pulls the box office down. And I guess it did.
I think overall that's not a bad number for both of them, especially considering the modest budget.
True, and also, we have to take into account that school's back.
Yeah, this is usually the slowest period of the movie season. So that's not a bad figure.
Right. So 21 million, not bad at all. But I say it could be higher if he just, put on a mask. Ryan Reynolds. Right?
All right.
Okay.
All right. Speaking of masks.
Okay, mask. Okay, take us into number two.
And number two is Annabelle Creation, the sequel to the first Annabelle, about some supernatural doll.
It's a prequel, right? It's a prequel to Annabelle.
Okay, sure. Yeah. And the drop off, not too bad, 55%, which is actually, for horror films, that's pretty good. After 2 weeks, the film has already grossed 64 million on a budget of just 15 million. So this whole cinematic universe created by The Conjuring is doing pretty well.
Yeah, amazingly well. I mean, when your budget is 15 million and your domestic gross is already at 60 in the second weekend, and hey, worldwide is at 162 million. So prequel, Conjuring, more killer dolls. Hey, they're gonna crank out more.
Yeah, and the reviews were surprisingly good. 67% for a horror film is actually very good, and nearly as good as the first one, right? Wasn't the first Annabelle decently well reviewed?
Yeah, the whole Conjuring series is actually pretty well reviewed.
Conjuring is well reviewed.
Yeah, relative to its genre, it's actually, like the Annabelles and the Conjuring, the mainline series is actually, surprisingly well reviewed.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Wow, this is even better reviewed than the first film. The first Annabelle, released in 2014, only scored a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, really? I thought it would be better.
Yeah. So Annabelle creation actually improved a lot from the previous film, which is very rare for horror films. It's rare for horror films to score well with critics, but it's rare for a horror film and a sequel to score better than the previous film. The first film wasn't that high anyway, so it only had one place to go.
Right. Well, I have to say, again, correct you. This is a prequel to Annabelle.
Yeah, right.
But your point remains, right? The rare sequel that improved upon the first movie.
Yeah.
And, the 55% drop-off is kind of lowish, really, considering that...
Yeah, it's kind of good for a horror film, because most of these films tend to drop off in the 60, 70, or sometimes 80%.
Yeah.
These films, they tend to be very front-loaded, and 55% is considered leggy in this genre.
Right. And it's an improvement over the first movie. And the drop-off is kind of lowish, considering. That means, as you say, it's going to be leggy and on. I mean, I think Halloween's coming up, too. I don't know if you'll stay that long in theaters, but hey.
Yeah. And they're making more spin-offs. I think that The Nun, they're coming up with The Nun, which is another spin-off of a character from either the first Conjuring or the second Conjuring. Or one of these Annabelle
Right.
films.
Speaking of the horror genre, I read that, from one analyst that since all these big budget bombs this year, they're studios are focusing more on, sure things like horror movies. So we're going to see more horror movies, low-budget horror movies coming out, supposedly.
Yeah, if they can do them well.
Right. But I think most low-budget horror movies make money anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Mainly because they're so cheap to make.
Right.
And there's that built-in audience.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, let's move on to number 3. The other new release last weekend. Lucky Logan. It pulled in about 7.6 million. That's what it opened to over the weekend. Steven Soderbergh. And all these. If not A-list actors, B-list, but well-known, has names. It did kind of, like I say, where I had it. I said it could probably open to between 8 to 10 million. It's just kind of at the lower end of my projections.
Yeah, and this film is actually very well reviewed, 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. And Soderbergh has a brand. People know who he is. He's an auteur. There are decent names in the cast. Soderbergh, I read that he kind of took control of the marketing, and he was somehow, because of his marketing strategy, it didn't work out quite as expected.
Well, maybe by him, but just where I had it, if a bit lower. And if you look at his past track record, right, with his indie movies, which I kind of lumped this one into, his indie movies kind of open right there.
Yeah, you can say, although his track record is kind of in that range, when he's making, like you said, an indie movie. I guess he just didn't want to promote this as a big blockbuster type of film. But, considering the reviews, maybe he should have.
But still, when I looked at the movie, the trailer, I don't see this as a big film. I see this as an indie movie that stars some, named people. This movie kind of have a limited appeal, I feel. And I guess the box office take, kind of proves that out.
Yeah, you could be right. Most of the cast is fantastic. It looks great. Daniel Craig, Channing Tatum, Adam Driver, Hilary Swank, Seth MacFarlane, Katie Holmes.
Right, exactly. But when I look at the trailer, right, you see one dead giveaway is when you see these major actors playing against what they're known for. Especially Daniel Craig, right? James Bond. Kind of reminds me of Pierce Brosnan, who took on all these roles that, to get away as far away as, from James Bond as possible. And that's what seems, what Daniel Craig seems to be doing here. That's kind of like a dead giveaway that, these characters are playing, against type, really, against what people expected them to do, against, what people like them to, to see them in.
Right. So you're saying it's not the marketing?
No, it's not. It's just that all these actors wanting to work with Soderbergh. His return to movie making. Remember he retired and he came back, and all these people are excited to work with him again.
Right. Well, I guess the film's not very lucky.
Right.
But it's very well reviewed though. It's kind of like 93% is not easy to get. So maybe it'll have legs, or maybe not.
Yeah, sometimes reviews doesn't usually translate into box office, especially with indie films, as we know.
Well, with indie films, they rely pretty heavily on reviews, more so than your blockbuster, which is why I think people were kind of disappointed at the box office because with great reviews and Soderbergh usually translates into an all-star ensemble. Usually that translates into bigger box office. So
yeah, sure, over time, but
maybe that's why people were blaming it on the marketing, which they feel. I think I read somewhere that they feel wasn't aggressive enough.
Yeah, I doubt. They're just looking for a reason. The reviews helps a movie staying power for indies, right? But it doesn't help its opening box office, I feel.
Anyway, it did as well as you expected, but
right.
It didn't do as well as other predictors.
All right, they should call me. I'll give them, what's it about? How their movie's gonna open. But anyway, a low opening for this kind of movie is not the, I guess, a death knell for this movie, right? Especially the budget is only $30 million, and with great reviews, like I say, for indie movies, it could help its staying power. So at the end, it could make generate a lot of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to see.
Yeah, I think
just the opening's not that good.
Yeah, we'll have to see if it has staying power.
All right, a movie with staying power. Number 4, Dunkirk. It pulled in about 6.6 million over the weekend. It's already in its 5th weekend already. Drop off is nearly 40% from its previous weekend, and domestic box office is 165 million on a budget of 100 million. And the worldwide box office right now is 395 million. So considering the topic, this movie is doing pretty well.
Yeah, it is. Chris Nolan definitely has a brand. If you can get people to go and watch a World War movie at this time and, make, how much is it? Nearly 400 million worldwide?
Yep. And it's not just a war movie. It's that this event that takes place during, World War II that people don't really know about, not really familiar with. It's like this major, it's a major event in that area, I guess, during, is it France or something like that? But, not a lot of people know about that event. So to get people to turn out for this one, it's amazing, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, should we move on to number 5?
Yep.
All right, at number 5, The Nut Job 2, Nutty by Nature. Did 5 million over the weekend. After 2 weeks, it has already taken in about 18 million on a budget of 40 million. So this is one of those mid-range animated films. The first one did decent. I think the first one made about 50 million overall.
Let's see. That's where we do our research. We do our research real time here.
We do it live.
Right,
we do everything real time.
Yeah. Oh, it did better than what you said.
Oh yes, 64 million.
That's just domestic.
Yeah, but this one has nothing going for it.
No, worldwide, the first movie did 120 million, so that's why we saw, that's why a sequel was made. But the sequel is not holding up well, I guess mainly because nobody asked for a sequel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how or why the first film did, so well. I mean, that's pretty good, especially for a mid-range animated film, a modestly budget film. But yeah, like you said, no one asked for a sequel, and it came, and it looks like it's gonna go.
Right. Surprisingly, the budget is about the same as the first movie, about 40 million. It hasn't opened overseas yet. It seems like, and we don't know how this movie will do overseas. But it does have the voice of Jackie Chan, so there it plays to the Asian market there.
Yeah, maybe it can do well in China, but yeah, I'm surprised Jackie Chan did voice work for that.
Well, I think he's at this point in his career, he's going to be in anything if they ask.
Oh, I'm not sure about that. He doesn't need to. He's like one of the biggest movie stars in the world in China. I don't think he's. I I mean, his last film, Chinese Yoga, did 260 million in China alone. So it's not like he needs to.
No, but he's the guy that he's kind of like a workaholic. He would just do work
Yeah, that's
just
true.
for the sake of doing work.
Yeah.
But like I said, if they ask, he'll be in it.
Right.
Okay, so again, Jackie Chan, a China play really, will probably open well in China, but it's not. Well, again, like you say, right? Animation, or kind of hit and miss over there. So who knows?
It's been doing better. The trend has been going up significantly. 5 or so years ago, animated films, you make 30 million is considered a blockbuster, but now animated films, can make up to around 200 million. So it has improved a lot.
All right, okay, yeah, but still, with the budget of only 40 million, even if it didn't do that well over there, I think it's still gonna turn a profit.
Yeah, and of course, the kids will gobble the film up on video.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
Alright, speaking of animated films, I think at number 6 is it did relatively well, right? The Emoji Movie did 4.4 million over the weekend, holding steady, although it's only 4 million. After 4 weeks of release, it has taken in 72 million on a budget of 50 million, which is pretty good and better than people were expecting this to not do so well.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, it's not great. It's not a blockbuster, but hey, it's gonna make money for them.
The standout is actually the budget, the 50 million. So if they keep animations within that range, they're gonna do well.
Yeah, and the worldwide figure is 125 million, so they're gonna make a profit on this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good that we're seeing a return to the mid-range animated films. They're not like 100 or 200 million like the Pixar movies or the DreamWorks movies.
No, which is no. It's just that it's only within these like 2 or 3 years, right, where we see animation falling down to 40-50 million. Before they were always near the 90 million range.
Yeah.
So for some reason, maybe it's due to software or whatever, or maybe they found this animation house in the middle of nowhere where wages are really cheap to make these movies, but somehow they did it for so low.
It's like any big budget movie right now. You can have mid-range films and high-range films, and it's one of those films where everything looks smooth, and they probably don't have to spend a lot of money on the texturing or on the environmental effects. And a movie like this, look a little better than what you see in a Cartoon Channel, but not on the Pixar level or the DreamWorks or the Illumination level.
Right. I mean, it has gotten good enough. I think that you don't need to be on that level for a movie, right? Before it would be like
you
Jimmy
don't have
Neutron.
to.
There's not a lot of texture on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's gone to the point where you can pay maybe 40 million and it still looks pretty decent.
Yeah, it's now good enough where like live action filmmaking, you don't have to build these enormous sets, and you don't have to add in too much texture.
Right.
So it's good that we're finally seeing some mid-range animated features like what's the other one? The Sausage Party.
Oh, right. Yeah, but that one was because they suppressed wages.
Yeah, but that one they also only made it for 20 million.
Right, because of suppressing wages.
Yeah, right. Yeah. If you don't suppress the wages, maybe it'll be 40 million,
right.
50 million.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Speaking of big budget movies, at number 7, Spider-Man: Homecoming. Did about 4.3 million over the weekend. Again, holding steady after 7 weeks of release. The total is at 314 million at a budget of 175 million. At 314 million, it did better than the previous 2 Spider-Mans.
At least the new reboots, right? Yeah, the previous reboots.
Yeah, the previous reboots. And the worldwide figure is at 725 million, which bodes well for this franchise.
Yeah, I guess nothing more to say because Spider-Man is tapped into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So more exciting things or Avengers waiting for him in his next movie.
Right.
All right, coming in number 8 is Girls Tripped. I pulled in about 3.9 million over the weekend. Domestic gross so far is 104 million. Worldwide is 114. Hey, this movie is doing better than I guess I projected this movie to do.
Yeah, not as successful as the next film at number 9, Dark Tower. Pulled in 3.8 million over the weekend. Totals at 42 million at a budget of 60 million. It's the adaptation of Stephen King's popular book series, and it's doing disappointing business. With Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba, you kind of expect this to do better, and especially based on such a popular property.
Yeah, kind of. I read, there was this thing a couple years ago where, the Dark Tower was supposed to be directed by Ron Howard, and the budget was supposed to be, high, over 100 million. But I think it was with Warner Brothers before. I'm not sure. But they were at this point where they kind of hit the pause button or the stop button on all of their high price movies. And I think Sony somehow is making it now for 60 million, and hey, it could be a bigger failure than it already is. If they went ahead with that 100+ million movie.
Right. But 60 million, though, it could make back its money in international, but so far disappointing. Not a big bomb. The budget is pretty modest, like you said. It'll probably end up in the 50 million, maybe even 55 million range. So
yeah, and also, doesn't this movie kind of remind you of Cowboys and Aliens? Kind of this mismatch of genres.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, except not as interesting.
So there's this magic, this gunslinger, so it's just
there's sci-fi,
all this thing, fantasy even, So yeah, strange mismatch of genres.
All right, pull us in at number 10.
All right, rounding out the top 10 is Wind River, a movie distributed by the Weinstein Company. Stars Jeremy Renner, Elizabeth Olsen. Olsen plays an FBI agent who's sent to this remote Alaskan, I believe, village to solve a girl's murder, and and it's in its expansion. It's already in its third weekend already. It added over 600 theaters, and it popped up in the top 10 with 2.9 million over the weekend.
It made 4 million total with a budget of 11 million.
11 million. Yeah.
Reviews are great though, 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. So who knows? Maybe it'll hold up.
Yeah, it's one of these indies that has a platform release, and now it's expanding. And I guess for the general movie audience, it's a team up of Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch from the Avengers.
Right.
So there you go.
All right, let's go on to the new movies opening this weekend.
Yes, going by what's released, we kind of know that, hey, we're entering the low period of the. We're still in the summer, right?
Yeah, we're still in the summer.
Okay, so we're kind of in the tail end of the summer box office, and surprisingly, there's no superhero movies, although there might be one called Birth of the Dragon.
Right.
Which is a Bruce Lee movie. And then there is the animation Leap, and then All Saints, a faith-based film starring that guy. I always keep on forgetting his name. And I guess there's a kind of a wide-ish movie distributed by A24 called Good Time as well. So let's start off with Birth of the Dragon, Bruce Lee movie.
Yeah, the release isn't particularly huge, only on 1,500 theaters. This one focuses on a real life event. He did fight, this Wong Jack-man character, but it wasn't like one of these things where he was sent from China to challenge him.
Well, yeah, and he's a monk as well, I think.
Yeah, and it was just one of these things where I think they were both teaching in San Francisco, and Bruce Lee, even back then, was inclusive. He wasn't just teaching Asians. He taught anyone who wanted to learn martial arts.
Yeah.
He taught blacks. He taught whites.
Yeah. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, right? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a student. Who's that guy? Other guy? Chuck Norris. Was Chuck Norris?
Well, they trained together, but he wasn't one of his students. Steve McQueen was.
Okay. Right. Yeah, he's another famous one.
So this Wong Jack-man character was one of those who wanted to challenge him, and Bruce Lee was pretty cocky back then, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, you're just some 20-year-old kid,
Punk.
Yeah, punk. I'm gonna teach you a lesson, because Bruce Lee was calling all of their classical martial arts junk. He was saying, "Wait, none of this stuff will work in a real fight."
Yeah, so he's been pretty much trash talking to attract more students, right? Because he's pretty much
he was trash talking everywhere. He was trash talking in magazines and everything.
Yeah, he's this young guy with a chip on his shoulder, right?
Yeah, and it was the precursor to the UFC, mixed martial arts, because he includes everything in his system: boxing, wrestling, grappling. He was learning anything that had to do with fighting. At the time, he was mixing styles. Anything that he felt like was useful in combat, he learned and utilized. And of course, a lot of these traditionalists didn't take it that well. It's like, you're just this 20-year-old punk. What do you know about fighting? What do you don't know about the martial arts?
Right.
And he was one of the guys who challenged him. And from all witnesses, Bruce Lee won, but it wasn't easy.
Right. Well, they made a movie about that event, really, I think. So
yeah, of course, because it's a movie, they exaggerated everything.
Yeah, exactly. I like to say, it's kind of superhero-ish, kind of, with all these, I guess, cross the line between real martial arts and stuff you see in the all these fantasy martial arts.
But movies. They did. I think it is interesting that they contrast the style, which is one of the main things back then, because Bruce Lee was for a more realistic approach. He was against the traditional super stylish stuff, which he felt like weren't very useful in a real fight. He was more for simplicity and efficiency of movements and not very flashy stuff. He felt just wasn't very practical. So in the film, you do see it. He used a more realistic fighting style, and then you see Rock Jackman doing very traditional classical martial arts.
Right. So anyway, it's another Bruce Lee biopic, kind of. So
this one is more of a fantasy. I would say Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, starring Jason Scott Lee. Although they do exaggerate some things, that was closer to a biopic. This one is just more Bruce Lee was in a fight. Let's create a story out of this and exaggerate everything else.
Right. It's pretty much Bruce Lee, the legend, is instead of Bruce Lee, the real guy.
Let's use that as a inspiration rather than as biographical.
Okay, all right. So with me saying that, another Bruce Lee biopic, I don't really have high hopes for this movie.
Yeah, especially with the negative controversy, the whitewashing and stuff like that happened. But I did hear from people who've seen it. For a film like this, the what you're looking at when you're watching a Bruce Lee movie is probably the martial arts. And for something like that, for fans who want to see martial arts action done well, the reviews that I read said the fight scenes are pretty good. And if you're going in for that, you'll be entertained.
Yeah, but I don't think there will be enough of those people going in for this. You're right. Yeah.
So what kind of numbers are you putting?
Well, I'm going to give it a bump, but it's probably going to open lower, maybe in the 8 to 10 million range.
It is released by WWE.
Right.
Dragon, the Bruce Lee story back then was a kind of a surprise hit. Although it wasn't like a massive hit, it did 35 million, which was back in 1993. But that was a lot better than what people were expecting. This one, I don't think will do that, nearly that well. You said 8 to 10 million. I'm kind of on the lower end of that. I'm going like 6 to 8 million, mainly because of all this, whitewashing controversy and.
Yeah, sure. I'm just giving it a slight bump because hey, maybe just for sentimental reasons, maybe Bruce Lee, but I could see this movie doing 5 as well. But hey, why not give it a bump and see how it happens? Because as we say, we are in a slow month.
Yeah.
Well, at least we're in the tail end of that of the summer months, and we're gonna see some clunkers movie. Even though they're well reviewed, people are busy with other stuff, mainly school and other activities. So the box office is gonna reflect that.
Yeah, and it's not like the competition's that great.
True. And, because, not a lot of people know about the film star, Philip Ng. He's kind of big in China and Hong Kong, but here not a lot of people
No,
know about him.
he's not big in China or Hong Kong. He's not yet.
Well,
Not
he's in all these martial arts film, right?
Yeah, he's a choreographer in a lot of films, and he did do Once Upon a Time in Shanghai, which I thought was pretty good. But I don't think it had the kind of box office that they probably wanted. It barely made a million in China, and I don't think it cracked the million mark in Hong Kong. Yeah, he's not a big star yet. He could be there.
Maybe I just don't see him having the look of the people that are necessary for a star. They're looking for a more softer look now over there. You've seen all
I don't think so.
You've seen all the movies and stuff like that, right? They're looking for more leading man material, and he doesn't have the leading man look. But we're digressing here.
Yeah, I think for action stars is a bit different. He has the martial arts. Yeah.
He does, but he just doesn't have that leading man look and feel. So that's what I'm saying. That's why he might not reach that level of big action stars in Asia. Although he might be well known, he's in all these movies. Here, I don't think he'll hit it big as well. Or this movie won't be that big.
Right. So we'll see.
Okay. How about we move on to Leap? I guess it has the most theaters of the new releases with 2,000. It's an animation, again distributed by the Weinstein Company, about a pair of orphans who escaped from the orphanage and went to Paris to try to achieve their dreams. I guess the guy being an inventor and the girl being a dancer.
There's only a few reviews on Rotten Tomatoes so far.
Yeah.
Of the 4 reviews there, 3 of them were splats. All splats.
Yeah, and it's already open overseas, and it already put in 58 million.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Most of that from France, which I guess the movie takes place.
Oh, okay. So it's a huge hit in France then.
Yes, because it takes place there, and I think it's a French movie that's being distributed by the Weinstein Company and translated here. And I feel this movie would probably work better as a live action movie.
Rather than animation.
And rather than an animation, because it's kind of focused on, they look like teenagers instead of like children. And it's a movie about following your dreams. And I think the romance part, I feel would work better if they star real people, real teenagers. Since it's an animation, it's kind of in a weird place because, it's supposed to be targeted toward kids, but, it's more of a, like a tween movie.
Yeah, you're saying like this kind of story doesn't quite work in the US because we're so used to seeing kiddie animated films.
Right. The subject matter would work better, better as a live action.
Yeah, in the US.
Mm-hmm.
Like the US audience is more receptive to a film in this genre in live action, not animation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. So what figure are you giving it?
Since it's open so wide and in animation, I guess I'll go with the 8 to 10 range again.
Going with 5.
Okay, 5. All right, you could be right as well. Like I say, this week's movie doesn't inspire confidence, but I just giving it a bump. All right, so you 5, me 8 to 10. All right, and our next one, which one you want to go with? All Saints or Good Time?
All Saints.
Okay, so All Saints. Let me find out that guy's name. Okay, so All Saints is a faith-based film starring John Corbett. Yeah, there it goes. Is it John Corbett? Yeah, the guy who is in Sex and the City, as well as My Big Fat Greek Wedding. He plays a priest that takes over a church, but that church is, failing, or because lack of funds, and his, parishioners got together and, start farming the land. And, he sees that as a way to save the church, just by turning the farm into, the church in, and its surrounding land into a farm. That's kind of the gist of it.
All right, what do you think?
Faith-based film, 2 million.
They're kind of hit and miss. Yeah, so all right, 2 million. Yeah, I'm with you there too.
All right, let's move on to Good Time. I feel it's the most interesting of the new releases.
Mm-hmm.
It's distributed by A24, who is known to, promote some very interesting pictures. Stars Robert Pattinson, Jennifer Jason Leigh. About this pair of brothers, one of whom is, got arrested and kind of put in Rutgers Island. I think, a very bad place, jail. And the other brother, who is free, tried to get bond money for his release. Right, it just it's a tale about people living on the margins, right, struggling to get by, and this good, the movie Good Time, kind of an ironic title, right? Nobody's having a good time there. Kind of shine a light on those people.
The reviews have been great, 90% on Rotten Tomatoes with 88 reviews, so a very good movie, opening nationwide. But I'm not sure. Not sure how this will do. Great reviews, kind of an indie film that's getting a platform release, right?
Yeah, it kind of has sort of a preview-ish in 4 locations in August. Has a pretty good per theater average, 31K, right? But the second week. The last weekend, I guess, it expanded more at to 20 theaters, and it only has a per theater average of 8K. So you can see as it expands, it kind of drops.
So it doesn't seem like it's getting a huge appeal, and despite being a very good movie.
Right, word of mouth is not getting out there, or people not talking about this movie, at all.
Right. All right. So what are you thinking?
It says nationwide, but I don't know how wide it is. Could be 500 theaters. Could be 1,000. Right. I'm gonna assume the low end, maybe. Again, 1 to 2 million.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there too.
All right, so I guess we are pretty much in agreement with this week's movies, and I guess the studios as well. They're just dumping stuff out.
Yeah, let's just throw it out there type of deal.
Right, there's really no movie to anchor this weekend, really.
Yeah.
Right, there's no big movie to anchor this weekend, and we're just getting stuff that they just want to throw out there. And it seems like next week is no different, right? Oh no, next week has It.
Another Stephen King movie.
Yeah, Stephen King horror movie, It. So it'll get a little bit better next weekend.
All right. So we'll see how badly these films will do.
Yeah, I suspect some of my projections for the especially Birth of the Dragon and Leap might be a bit high. You might be closer.
Hey, this WWE, they're the kind of audience that would be receptive to it. So
right, they bring Philip Ng into one of the matches, and him pulling the wrestlers, stirring up some fur.
Yeah, and he can use all those chairs too.
Right. Okay, so tune in next week.
All right, see you guys next week.